Good afternoon, all. Welcome to the Samvad Talk on elliptic curves over finite fields by Professor Manisha Kulkarni. I'm Shivangi Garg with the Branding Committee, and I'll be introducing the speaker for the day. Professor Manisha Kulkarni did her PhD in IMSC and joined IIIT Bangalore in 2012. Her main area of research is number theory, mainly in Diophantine equations. She also does research in elliptic curves. Professor Manisha has been the coordinator for Master of Science by Research and Doctor of Philosophy programs since 2017. In today's talk, she will be discussing elliptic curves over finite fields. The talk will elaborate on the Hasse-Weil bound, which is the bound on the number of points on the curve over finite fields. We warm-heartedly welcome you, ma'am, to deliver a talk on elliptic curves over finite fields. Before we get started with the talk, I would like to thank the audience on both the Zoom meeting and the YouTube live stream for attending the talk on behalf of the Samvad team. Please feel free to ask your questions in the chat boxes. We will take the questions at the end of the talk. Now, I would like to request Professor Manisha Kulkarni to begin her talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, actually, sometime back, some IMTech students had asked me to explain about elliptic curves over finite fields because somebody had given talk on, in fact, Arnav from IIT Gandhinagar had given talk on this elliptic curves, and he had mentioned about finite fields and points of finite order and all. So I thought, okay, in Samvad I will explain, and my research is also somewhat connected to it, so I thought this is the best way to explain things. So I really thank Jaya and yeah, thanks, because two times we fixed my Samvad and because of some unavoidable reasons I had to postpone it, but she really showed a lot of patience, and I really thank Jaya. Yeah, so let me start now. So my plan of the talk is like this. Introduction I will give of elliptic curves. Then first we will try to see rational points on elliptic curves. And then we will see points on elliptic curves which comes from finite field FP. So here I am assuming that you know about finite field, and elliptic curves I will try to explain a bit. Okay. So my plan is to give 1 hour talk. So let's see. Yeah. So you know that degree 1 curves are precisely lines, and degree 2 curves you can get from taking different sections of cone. It depends what how you take section. You get circle, ellipse, parabola, hyperbola. These are all degree 2 curves, right? So next one we will like to study is degree 3 curves, and that's where this elliptic curve will come in picture. So so elliptic curve E is curve defined by an equation, actually y square equal to fx. For simplicity I am taking this form. So y square equal to fx, where this fx is actually cubic polynomial. Yeah. Yeah, elliptic curves looks like y square equal to fx, where fx is cubic polynomial. Then by doing change of variable and all, you can get this form actually, y square equal to x cube plus ax plus b, which is somewhat simpler and easy to handle. Okay. Otherwise, yeah. And today, of course, this is not every y square equal to fx is elliptic curve. Y square equal to fx, where fx is cubic, is elliptic curve if right hand side polynomial, that x cube plus ax plus b, has distinct roots. Or equivalently, you can say that if this discriminant is non-zero. Discriminant is non-zero implies that there are no roots with multiplicity more than one, right? I mean, if it is more multiplicity, then they are not distinct. Obviously, discriminant has to be 0, because you know that it comes into minus 1 raised to something into product of alpha I minus alpha j, where alpha I alpha j are roots of polynomial. So today I thought instead of giving theory, let me just explain this through examples. Okay. So whatever I wanted to say, I am going to take basically these three elliptic curves and going to explain my theory with this. So elliptic curves I have chosen are y square equal to x cube plus 17, y square equal to x cube plus x, and y square equal to x cube minus 4x square plus 16. In the beginning, I denoted as E1, E2, E3, but later I have lost track of it. So don't bother about E1, E2, E3. Just remember these are the three curves I'm handling for this lecture. And yeah, these curves look like this. If you draw these real elements of this curve, then you get this graph. So these are basically real part of elliptic curve. And remember that this is how it looks like. Okay, very nice looking elliptic curve. And so this A and B can come from anywhere. Okay, so when I say y square equal to x cube plus x plus b, this A and B can be integers, A and B can be rationals, they can be reals, they can be complex numbers, they can be from finite field, or they can be also from number fields. They can be from like A can be something like 2 plus 3 root 5. B can be some 5 plus 7 root 5. Anything. They can come from some number fields also. They do not have to be from some particular thing. But if coefficients are from Q, then we say this elliptic curve is over Q. If coefficients are from R, we say it's a real elliptic curve. And if they are from, that is how we write it. Okay. And now EK is points of elliptic curves from K. That means points xy where x and y are elements of K. So basically points on elliptic curves where coordinates comes from that particular field K. So you can say that rational points on elliptic curve means this x and y they have to be rational points. Okay. So real points of elliptic curve means x and y have to be real numbers. And remember this elliptic curve definition, if any advanced book, if you check or any book, it says that this is a curve, this is called elliptic curve, y square equal to x cube plus x plus b with point at infinity. Okay. So this point at infinity is necessary, absolutely necessary. And you can get it by making this elliptic curve look at into P2, okay, instead of P1, that is as a projective variety. So basically you can make this polynomial y square equal to x cube plus x plus b as a homogeneous polynomial. So it will be y square z equal to x cube plus ax z square plus b z cube. And look at the intersection of this curve with line z equal to 0. Okay. So line and this curve is of degree 3. So every line actually should intersect this curve at 3 points. Okay. And that's how we find this point at infinity. For elliptic curve, point at infinity is where all vertical lines meet. Okay. So yeah, when you study this projective variety, algebraic variety and all these things come, but you just take for granted that there is a y square equal to x cube plus x plus b plus this point at infinity is your ek. Okay. So what is special about elliptic curves is that one can add 2 points on elliptic curve and one can get third point. Actually, this is amazing property. Okay, that because of that, these elliptic curves are become important, because P and Q are on elliptic curve. Then if you just take your normal addition, obviously they will not be on point on elliptic curve. Okay, so you have to define this addition differently. And here that point at infinity works as additive identity. Okay, without point at infinity, you cannot define this addition. But and how is it defined? If you have point P, you have point Q, then draw a line passing P and Q and look at third point of intersection. This is geometrically very easy to explain actually what is addition. And we will see one formula, they are not difficult to handle. So draw a line passing through P and Q. Since curve is of degree 3, it will definitely intersect at third point. Denote it as R and just join this R with point at infinity. That means draw a line passing through R and O. Now that O is nothing but basically you just have to draw vertical line through R. So that line has to meet this curve at third point, and that is precisely your P plus Q. It is not difficult. P, you have Q, draw a line passing through P and Q, and then just take vertical line passing through R, and this is basically reflection of R. If R is x comma y, then x comma minus y, because you see, if R has coordinates x comma y, then P, this point has coordinates x comma minus y. Okay, so this is how, and this is how addition is explained better way. I have taken all these diagrams from internet actually. Okay, from I think Wikipedia only, maybe I don't remember. Yeah, so one can add this or subtract. Subtracting is you can define minus p for p. So I told you that actually this when you this if you collect ek, no, ek is points on elliptic curve whose coordinates are from k. Suppose you are looking at eq. Let us just start with simple case eq, where coordinates are rational points. Then in fact it has a additive group structure. You are defining addition on it, and you can give what is p plus q. Here you can see it's r dash. Then you can also look at q plus q. Okay, q plus q means that line meets twice. Therefore, you have to draw tangent through q and look at the third point, that is p here, and then take reflection of that, that is p dash. So 2q is actually p dash. Fine. Then you can define inverse of p, additive inverse I mean. So you can check what is p plus q equal to o, then what is this q. This should be o actually, should not be 0. Just understand that this 0 here means not your normal integer 0. This is point at infinity. So this p plus q, so if you just draw vertical line through P, it will intersect curve at Q, right? And then this P and Q, you have to look at third point of intersection, right, with curve. So that will be what? It's vertical line. So obviously point at infinity will be third point of intersection. And now you have to draw line between this third point, which is O, through O, and you have to look at third point of intersection. And you know that, I mean, this point at infinity for elliptic curve is precisely, you get, if you look at this equation, you get x cube equal to 0. When you put y square z and ax square z and bz cube, and if you put z equal to 0, you get equation x cube equal to 0. So there are 3 points of infinity, but they are all same. And they are precisely x is 0 and z is 0, y can be anything. Okay. So this actually the third point of intersection is O itself. So therefore P plus Q is O. In other words, Q is minus P. So if you have point P on elliptic curve, additive inverse of P is nothing but reflection of P. And then you can also, this we will come later, what is 2P equal to 0 means. So basically you can add, you can subtract, you can add same point, you can add several times same point and all. So this addition makes sense. It's very well defined. And in fact, it forms a group. It has a group structure. So just look at this easy formula. Okay. So look at this formula. P1, suppose x1, y1, P2 is x2, y2, and P3 is that R basically, P1 star P2. Then P1 plus P2 is x3 minus y3. So this R is basically many people or many books or many, I mean, even I draw it as a P star Q, and this is P plus Q. So remember, this R is P star Q, and once this has X, Y, then this coordinates P plus Q has X minus Y, right? So you have P1, you have P2, then you can draw line through P1 and P2. So this is standard thing, right? Line passing through 2 points P1 and P2. So you draw this y equal to lambda x plus mu. Lambda, you know how to find slope of the line, y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. And once you have point P1 and P2, you can find mu by formula y1 minus lambda x1 equal to y2 minus lambda x2. So once you find this lambda and mu, you can immediately find x3, y3. I mean, x3 you get by this formula. This x3, yeah, lambda square minus a minus x1 minus x2, and y3 you get by using this formula, lambda x3 plus mu. So let us look at our first elliptic curve, x cube plus 17. You can immediately see this minus 1, 4 is point on this, right? If x is minus 1, then 17 minus 1 will be 16, y equal to 4 and minus 4. So the moment you put x equal to minus 1, you get point. So that is minus 1, 4. You can also know that 17 and plus 8 is 25. So 2, x is 2, then you get y equal to 5. So immediately you get these 2 points, minus 1, 4 and 2, 5. You can check what is lambda, y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, that is 1 by 3, right? And then x3 you have formula, lambda square minus a minus x1 minus x2. So this is nothing but 1 by 3 square, a is 0 here, because x cube plus ax square plus b, that is the thing, that's a. So a is 0, and this x1 is 2. Yeah, x1 is 2. So you get this minus 8 by 9. And here mu is y1 minus lambda x1, you get 13 by 3. 4 minus 1 by 3 minus 1. So you get 13 by 3. Therefore, you get immediately y3, lambda x3 plus mu. So it's 1 by 3 into lambda, that is x3, no? Yeah, so lambda is 1 by 3, x3 is minus 8 by 9, plus mu is 13 by 3. So you get this point, 109.27. Therefore, you get P1 star P2 is x3, y3 is minus 8 by 9, 109 by 27. So once you get that, P1 plus P2 is just, you have to change sign of y3. So you can see from here that calculations are really not difficult. So even though this addition looks little complicated when you look at geometrically, but formulas are not that complicated at all. Okay. So that's why I did this example, so that you will have this first-hand experience of calculations. And then now you explicit formula for P plus P. Suppose P1 equal to P2. So then you can't use y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1, but you know, all of you, that in that case lambda is f dash x by 2y for y square equal to fx. And once you have lambda, all other things remain safe. So you take this and now you look at minus 1, 4. Okay, that previous, this point is P1. So you look at this P1 and try to add, try to find out 2 P1. So I have to calculate 2 P1. So once I get lambda, that is f dash x by 2y, I get lambda's value as 3 by 8. Then as before, you can calculate mu as y1 minus lambda x1. You get 35 by 8. And then x3 is same formula, lambda square minus x1 minus x2. So it's 3 by 8 square, lambda square, okay, plus 2 minus x1 is plus 1, and this is, I hope I have done correct. Yeah, minus x1 minus x1. So minus of minus, so plus 2. Yeah, 137 by 64. and y3 is this. So 2651 by 513 is what you get. Therefore, P1 star P1, you get this 137 by 64 and 2651 by 512. Okay. Hence, P1 plus P1, that is 2P1, is like this. You just change y to minus y. So you can see that even here calculations are not difficult. Okay. So this was to give you experience. So now look at this EK. So if we collect all rational points on elliptic curve, for example, it has a group structure and it's denoted by EQ. And for any other field, you can take K as Q root D. I mean Q root 2, Q root 3, Q root minus 5, whatever. And it will be denoted as EK. So there are points of finite order also, and there are points. Finite order means if you add P plus P plus P, sometimes suppose it collapses. Then you say this is point of finite order. Okay. Right here, you get 2P is rational numbers, right? It doesn't collapse. So it might happen sometime that 2P is 0, who knows? Then you can say that that point is of order 2. So this EK and or EQ, whatever, it forms abelian group, additive abelian group, and it has two parts actually. One part which contains points of finite order. Again, aeroplane is going back. So, and yeah, yes. And another part which contains points of infinite order. Okay. So these points of finite order part, no, it's called point of finite order, it's called torsion point. And that part of the group is called torsion group of E. And it's denoted by EK tor. Okay. So basically this is torsion group of E over K. So let us look at points with rational coordinates. Our first elliptic curve, no, that x cube plus 17. We started with these 2 points, P1 and P2, and you get this minus 8 by 9 and 109 by 27. Also, you get 2 P1 as this rational numbers, I mean rational point. Okay. So, this elliptic curve has in fact lots of rational points. Minus 2, 3, 2, 5 satisfy this equation. When you add, you get this point. You can add minus 2, 3 and this new point. You get another point. You can continue the same procedure and you end up getting lots and lots of rational points. In fact, this has infinitely many rational points. Okay, we will come to that later. On the other hand, our second elliptic curve, that where is that? Here, y square equal to x cube plus x. Okay, that has very less, had just one point with rational coordinates xy. So y square equal to x cube plus x had just one point, and proof is not easy at all. So don't bother about it. And third elliptic curve, y square equal to x cube minus 4x square plus 16. See, if you put x equal to 0, you get y square equal to 16. So y equal to plus minus 4. So you get this 0, 4 and 0 minus 4 immediately. Similarly, if you put x equal to 4, then you get actually here also 4 cube, here also 4 cube. They will get cancelled with each other. And you get y equal to plus minus 4. So when x is 4, you get 2 points. When x is 0, you get 2 points. So these 4 points immediately, just look at it and you get it. And surprisingly, if you add this P1 and P2 or P1 and P3 and all, you end up getting another point of this list only. You do not get any new point. That is, this has only these 4 rational points. It does not have any other rational points. Proof is very long, actually, 2-3 pages proof. So I don't want to do it. My point was to tell you that there are elliptic curves with infinitely many rational points. There are elliptic curves with just one rational point. And there are elliptic curves with finite number of rational points like this last one, like this one. Now look at points of finite order of E. So when do you call point is finite order? You keep adding p again and again, p plus p plus p. And suppose after m times adding this point, you get in that point at infinity. That means that addition collapses. Okay. Then this is called point of finite order. So yeah, so this is called point of finite order, and order is m here. So this torsion group of E is precisely group of all points of finite order on E, and look at points of order 2 just to get feeling for this finite order, points of finite order. Look at these points of order 2. So that means p plus p is O, right? That means p equal to minus p. That is xy equal to x minus y, because I told you, right? Minus p is nothing but the reflection of xy across that, I mean that x-axis. So basically it's xy, then it is x minus y. But y equal to minus y will give you y equal to 0. So basically points of order 2 are points xy such that x is root of fx. x1 0, x2 0 and x3 0 are roots of polynomial. Fine. But see, I'm not talking about rational and all. Okay. It can happen that x1 is rational, but x2 and x3 are complex roots. I'm not saying anything like that. Okay. So there are actually these 3 points of order 2, and point at infinity you have to take, only then it makes sense. So there are 4 points of order 2 because 2O is O anyway. So you must have seen subgroup of groups, right? Identity element has to be there. So x1 0, x2 0, x3 0 and O. So there are 4 points of order 2. Then look at points of order 3. The points of order 3 means 3p equal to 0. That means 2p equal to minus p. And when 2p equal to minus p, look at coordinate, x coordinate, I mean that formula. Then you get precisely that 8 non-trivial points. Okay. By equating this, this 2p equal to minus p, you get actually that x has to be root of 4-degree polynomial. So you get 4 values of x. Each value of x will give you 2 points, 2 values of y. Therefore, you get actually 8 non-trivial points, and this O is trivial point. So you get actually there are 9 points of order 3. Okay, so that's the thing. So in fact, so you can guess in fact that if there are torsion points, then that order is in fact will be m square. But we are not going into that. So what is interesting is this Nagia's theorem. So we saw points of rational coordinates, then we saw points of finite order, and this Nagia's theorem, which was proved in 35-37, says that eqtors, I mean all group these finite points, if their coefficients are rational, then actually they happen to be integer. And this is really solid theorem, because you know discriminant, and he also says this if he is handling only q, by the way, he's not handling general field. Okay, he's handling only rational points. So he says if the torsion point is a rational point, then actually it happens to be integer, and either y equal to 0 or y square divides discriminant. And this makes it absolutely easy to find eq torsion, because there are very finite number of possibilities for y. The moment you have elliptic curve, you have discriminant in hand. The moment you have discriminant in hand, you know that y has to be integer and y square has to divide discriminant. So there are very finite number of values of y will come. And then for each y, you can just check which values of x are possible. So these are the Nagia's theorem is really something very nice. And this Mazur, or Major, it's called Major, he's called. He generalized this theorem. No, actually his contribution is he gave precisely this 15 groups. Okay, and he says eq torsion. You take any elliptic curve on Earth with coefficients in Q. only one of these 15 group will occur as a torsion group of this E. Amazing result actually. Very deep proof. And this Major's theorem says that there are maximum 15 groups are there, which will be which can occur as a torsion points. And Mordell, he had general theorem that if E is elliptic over curve over Q, then group of rational points is always finitely generated. See, there is a difference between finitely many and finitely generated. Finitely generated means there will be 10 points such that any rational point will be linear combination of this. Like in linear algebra, we have seen, right, basis, that is basis elements generate that vector space. Similar thing here, finite number of points will generate this. So number of generators are finite. That is a Mordell's theorem. And in fact, later well proved that for general K. So that's why this Mordell's theorem is sometimes called Mordell-Well theorem, and they state it for K, where K is any field. So look at now elliptic curves or finite field. So just pause a bit and think what we have done so far. I defined elliptic curves. I explained to you about addition of elliptic curves. Then we checked these 3 elliptic curves by formula. And then we tried to see what are rational points on these elliptic curves. We found there are infinitely many on first elliptic curve. There is 1 rational point on second elliptic curve, and there are 4 rational points on third elliptic curve. And then I told you Nagel's theorem, and then this Major's theorem and Mordell's theorem. Okay. So now I come to elliptic curves over finite field. So once you have elliptic curves, okay, you can just look at, you can reduce it to modulo P, and you can also look at points coming from finite field. That means uh, P has coordinates x, y, x and y are elements of Fp. You can take either Fp or you can take Fq. Q is P raised to n. But whole of my lecture I have concentrated on Fp, okay? Because once you understand this, understanding P raised to n may not be difficult at all. So for example, take this second elliptic curve, y square equal to x cube plus x. Then we can reduce this modulo 2, and then you can look at points on Z mod 2Z. Z mod 2Z has just 2 points, 0 and 1. So your x can take value 0 and 1, y can take value 0 and 1. So you can see that there are only these 2 points come from that, 0, 0 and 1, 0. 0, 1 will, yeah, and then O, okay. So, yeah, there are 3 points. NP, so I'm denoting this NP, I'm separating it, okay. Just NP means points precisely on this Z mod 2Z and not taking in consideration point at infinity. So NP is point from finite fields, and yeah, we have to add 1 because points at infinity. Similarly, you can check that Z mod 3Z, there is 0, 1 and 2, and you can check that it has total 4 points. So that is NP plus 1. There is a reason why I'm denoting it as a NP plus 1. Okay. So can we guess what are the points on elliptic curve coming from Fp? We know Fp is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to P minus 1, right? That is precisely. F5 will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. F3 will be 0, 1, 2. These are residue classes basically. So what do you mean by finding points in this is put x equal to 0, x equal to 1, x equal to P minus 1 in the equation y square equal to fx. Now if fx happens to be 0, then you get y equal to 0. So if fx equal to 0, you get 1 point on elliptic curve. Suppose fx is non-zero square, then you get 2 points, right? X, y and x minus y. And if fx is non-square, then there are no solutions y. So you do not get any point. So fx is assuming that in quadratic residues, right? There are half of elements will be quadratic residue mod p and half is non-residue mod p. Assuming that maximum you can get approximately you can get, because p by 2 might be quadratic residue, each of them will give you 2 points. So 2 into p by 2 is p solution, and with point at infinity, perhaps, I mean not sure, but perhaps it will be somewhere near p plus 1. So cardinality of EFP will be p approximately p plus 1. Since this is approximation, so we can write this as EFP equal to p plus 1 plus some error term. And we can expect this error term should be dependent on P, right? Because the whole business depends on P. So obviously this also should be dependent on P. So look at this, your elliptic curve x cube plus x, our elliptic curve x cube plus x, y square equal to. And if you look at point this, then there are 0, 0, 1, 0 and O. And mod 3, these are the points. It took a lot of time for me to make this table. Point mod 5, you get this many points. These are precisely the points. So I have written here number of NP. That is NP is without considering O. So it's this. Then here it's 3. And for 5, there are 3 non-trivial points. For 7, there are 6 non-trivial points. For 11, there are 10 non-trivial points. For 13, look at it. There are 19. So basically, total 20 points. There are 19 non-trivial points. And for 17, left-hand side are all primes. These are all points on this elliptic curve. There are 15 points. Okay. So now I just don't bother about these precise points. I'm trying to see P and NP. So I have made new table. And I wanted to have more points. So if I don't take this in consideration, I can go on calculating and I get this table. Okay, P and NP. So you can see that for several primes, what is NP? So total points will be NP plus 1. Remember that. So you can see that for 2 it is 2, for 3 it is 3, for 7 it is 7, for 11 it is 11. Can you see there is something? So you notice this comment I have written. For P3 mod 4, actually we get NP equal to P. See this 3, 7, 11, 19. These are all 3 mod 4, right? This is 16 plus 3. This is 8 plus 3. This is 4 plus 3. This is 28 plus 3. So these are 3 mod 4. And 0.1 mod 4, you can't really, primes which are 1 mod 4, you can't really guess any pattern here. But for primes 3 mod 4, you can definitely see that NP equal to P. So what can we conclude for this elliptic curve is the following theorem. Let P be odd prime, then when P is 3 mod 4, NP is P. But when P is 1 mod 4, you get some subtle relation. It's very nice. P is 1 mod 4, then we know P can be written as what's sum of two squares, a square plus b square. Basically, you look at a plus ib, a minus ib, and then that a square plus b square you will get. It splits actually. And with a positive and odd, whichever is, they cannot be, both cannot be odd and both cannot be even, right? So one of them is odd, take that as a, and then this NP happens to be P plus minus 2a, where sign is negative if a is 1 mod 4 and positive if 3 mod 4. In fact, I have calculated this. Look at 29 for example. 29, I can write as 5 square plus 2 square. So A is 5 here, right? A is 5 for 29. And then this NP will be 29 minus 10. that is 19, and you can see it is 19. Okay, so this is very nice for P1 mod 4. So basically for this elliptic curve, you can precisely say when NP equal to P, it is for 3 mod 4 primes, and when P is 1 mod 4, any prime is either 1 mod 4 or 3 mod 4. So it gives precisely full thing. Now look at for this elliptic curve, y square equal to x cube plus 17. If you make similar table for P and NP, then mod 4 you do not get anything. But mod 3, if you try to see, then you get this observation. When P is 2 mod 3, you get NP equal to P. And P is 1 mod 3, I cannot see any pattern actually. So when P is 2 mod 3, that means 5, 11, 17, 23, 29. You can see that 41, 47, 59. So when P is 1 mod 3, you cannot guess anything, but 2 mod 3, you get NP equal to P. So number of points here, you can say this theorem, P is 2 mod 3, then NP equal to P. 1 mod 3, actually it was conjecture that there is always integer B such that 4P equal to P minus NP square plus 3B square. It is definitely true, but it is not easy to prove. Okay. See, I always tell students of IM Tech that research doesn't happen, it slowly develops that subject. So even in elliptic curves, you see, they have each of this result is actually research paper sometime, right? They have handled this elliptic curve, they got this solid result. They handled this elliptic curve x cube plus 17, they got this solid result. Slowly, slowly, they will subject develops nicely. So when you handle out of 3 these first 2 elliptic curves, you get this almost half of the primes P equal to NP, because any prime is either 1 mod 4 or 3 mod 4. Similarly, mod 3, any prime is either 1 mod 3 or 2 mod 3. So about half of primes you get NP equal to P, and other half some pattern we have got. But you see, these are only 2 elliptic curves in ocean of elliptic curves. So we should not come into conclusion very fast. Look at our third elliptic curve. So third elliptic curve really shows us something. You see, 2 except 2, then 19, and then 29. All other primes, you do not really get any pattern, by the way. Right? So what is happening? For this nice elliptic curve, y square is x cube minus 4 x square plus 16, I cannot see any pattern. In fact, there are very less number of primes for which NP equal to P. And even if you check more primes up to 5000, these are the only primes. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are only 12 primes up to 5000 for which NP happens to be P. They're all 9 mod 10, but you see they don't cover all 9 mod 10 primes. There are plenty of 9 mod 10 primes which are not here. Okay. So one cannot conclude anything for this particular elliptic curve. And in fact, if you try to see more and more elliptic curves, they fall into category of this elliptic curve. These first 2 elliptic curves which we handled were very special elliptic curves. They are called elliptic curves with complex multiplication. I don't want to go into complications because complex multiplication means you have to define map on elliptic curves, and usually multiplication P goes to NP is a standard map, and if there are more maps, then that elliptic curve is called complex multiplication. Let us not go deep into it, okay? But just remember that there are these 2 curves are special curves. They are elliptic curves with complex multiplication. So for that, about half of primes, you will get NP equal to P. And remaining elliptic curves without complex multiplication, there are few primes for which you get NP equal to P. You get NP, it's not that you don't get, but very few you will get. Okay. So thing is that now you have suppose elliptic curve E over Q. Suppose EFP is group of points over FP, then this cardinality of EFP, we know it approximately P plus 1. Artin in his thesis in 1920 mentioned actually that the error term cannot be very big, and in fact he conjectured that it has to be less than 2 root P. Okay, and in fact Hasse proved it in 1934. And that's what I had written in my abstract, that Hasse-Weil bound. This is the bound, that that error term has to be less than or equal to 2 root P. Hasse proved it for Q, and Andrew Weil in 1940s, he proved it for other elliptic curves, elliptic curve defined over K. And Dellin actually in 1974, I think, he proved it for general higher dimension things. In fact, this error term is denoted by AP. So this Hasse-Weil theorem, because Weil proved it for general fields, elliptic curve over general fields, and Hasse proved it for Q. So this is called Hasse-Weil theorem. And Hasse-Weil theorem states like this. This AP is 1 plus P raised to M minus this is less than this. So when M equal to 1, that is the case I handled in this lecture, is actually says that AP, which is nothing but mod P minus NP, okay? Because here you are adding P plus 1 minus this, P plus 1, this 1 comes from point at infinity, but this is also NP plus 1. So this AP is actually P minus NP. That is precisely a difference between prime P and actual number of points on elliptic curve, and that is always less than or equal to 2 root P. This AP plays lot of important role in number theory, and this is also called, by the way, Riemann hypothesis for elliptic curves, because there is alternate way to state this theorem, and that is analogous to famous Riemann hypothesis, which talks about Riemann zeta function and says all zeros lies on the line where real a is equal to half. Okay, so this AP, in fact, one can also define different way. My research is somewhat connected to AP, so you have got now feeling for AP, right? So just let us confirm this Hasse-Weil bound for this elliptic curve x cube plus x. I have denoted P, NP, that table we already have, and look at this AP. You can see that AP is always less than 2 root P. This is P, this is AP. You can check, I mean, for every non-zero AP, you can see it happens to be less than or equal to 2 root P. So this is for x cube plus 17. You can see non-zero. You see for these two, AP is 0 for many primes because they are elliptic curves with complex multiplication. NP minus P minus NP is AP. And you can see here also lot of APs are 0. So, and whenever it's not 0, you can check that mod AP is less than 2 root P. Okay. And this is for our last elliptic curve. You can, even here you can see that mod AP, this is P. So actually it is much less than, it is much less than 2 root P. This is a very, very famous theorem, and it is considered one of the most important theorem of 20th century. And in 1994, when Fermat's last theorem was proved, that was another considered important theorem. But this Hasse-Weil theorem is amazing. Yeah. Okay. So I told you that AP can be defined in a different way. It can define in a different way by using something called Frobenius map. And this AP happens to be trace of Frobenius. This Frobenius map is linear transformation of something called Tate module of elliptic curves and all. So let us not go into all that. Coming to this, now I will just tell you my research a bit, and I'm almost through actually, just one more slide, 2 more slides and I'm done. So you see, for every elliptic curve E over Q, whenever P does not divide discriminant, and when you reduce that, you will get a good elliptic curve. I mean, you get elliptic curve. And for that, for that P, you can calculate your AP by looking at NP minus mod of N, P minus NP. And Hasse-Weil bound tells you that AP is less than root 2 root P. Once AP is less than 2 root P, you can look at this field, because AP square is strictly less than 4P then, whenever it's non-zero. AP is less than or equal to 2 root P. It will be always less than 2 root P, right? Because root P is not a integer. P is a prime number. So AP square minus 4P is a negative number. So when you attach Q to it, you get actually imaginary quadratic field. And then you can ask these questions. Can we get all imaginary quadratic fields by this method? I mean, you start with elliptic curve, you start with prime P, you will get elliptic curve. Change your prime, you will get another this field F. So you can keep getting F1, F2, F3 and blah, 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 blah. So question is, can you get all imaginary quadratic fields? Like Q root minus 1, Q root minus 2, Q root minus 3, Q root minus 4, Q root minus 5, all. That is the first question. Second question is that, suppose you start with imaginary quadratic field. Suppose I start with Q square root of minus 3. And I have elliptic curve E. I have elliptic curve E. I have this imaginary quadratic field F. What is the guarantee that this F will occur as an imaginary quadratic field if I calculate like this? These fields are called Frobenius fields actually, because this AP is trace of Frobenius. Okay, so that's how it is. So these are the two questions have been I have been interested in this. So sometime back, myself, Patankar and Rajan, we got this result. We started with 2 elliptic curves. We are nowhere near proving any of this, by the way. Okay, these two questions. But we have got this result that E1 and E2 are 2 elliptic curves defined over rational numbers. And suppose at least one of them is without complex multiplication. Complex multiplication case is not interesting, okay? Therefore, we take at least one of them without complex multiplication. Then set of all primes for which their Frobenius fields are same as a positive density, if and only if E1 and E2 are isogenous. Isogenous means they're isomorphic. There is isogeny actually. So yeah, between them over complex numbers. Potential isogenous, basically. And another thing is that second question we try to answer is a elliptic curve and given field F. Okay. Then that P prime, such that Frobenius field is F, then the set has a positive density if and only if E has complex multiplication by F. So these are two results we have got. It has got published also. So yeah, these are proof is extremely complicated. So that's what I wanted to tell you about points of finite order, how to calculate AP, Hasse-Weil bound, then checking that Hasse-Weil bound makes sense, and then what is my relation with that AP, my connection of my research. Okay, so I think it's 2:55 and thank you very much for attending the talk. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Manisha. We have a question from Prasanna.
Rational
Yeah.
generalizes to finite fields also. What do you mean by that? Analogous results for extension fields is, yeah, there are analogous results for extension fields. Fifth, any number field you can take of degree. Yeah. There are generalization of these results are there. That's why that Mordel's theorem is there. So yeah, there are a lot of how can I go? Yes. There are analogous results are there. So see, this Nagellas talks about EQ torsion, but EK torsion also there is a Merrill. Merrill proved in 1994 actually that even EK torsion is also bounded, and that is bounded. That bound is dependent on degree D. If elliptic curve E is defined over field K, number field K, and K is of degree D over Q, then that bound is dependence on D. So he actually proved that point is a finite order, then it cannot have order more than D raised to, I think something, I don't remember now, D cube plus something like that. There was a bound. Later it was improved by Pero, and later it was improved by Osterley. Osterley never published his paper, but Pero did publish his paper. So these generalized results, I mean, over number fields and all are there. So yes, and Mordell wells, Mordell well, I told no that Mordell wells, that they say that it is finitely generated. So, and that other part, no, that dimension is called rank of elliptic curve actually. This EK has finite points and infinite points. These finite points are well understood by all this. There are finitely many groups and all that. And infinite part, points of infinite order, that it's a free group, and it's called rank actually. And it's a conjecture that there are elliptic curves with very, very large rank. So I know somebody had published elliptic curve of rank 28 in 2020 or 2019 sometime. High rank, that much I know. So that is a generalized thing. Yeah. Yes, Jaya.
Vivek is asking a question.
Oh,
Okay.
hi.
Hi, Vivek.
Hi, Professor Manisha. This was a very nice talk.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
question is, elliptic curves has a lot of applications in crypto, as you know. In fact, elliptic curve crypto is a big area in itself.
I
So, I want
know,
to know.
I want to learn it from all of you.
Oh, great. Yeah, thanks. My privilege. So, what I want to know, are you aware of any other applications in other branches of computer science, say coding theory or some other field other than crypto?
Elliptic curves applications, I don't know.
Okay.
See, thing is that I don't know outside of mathematics much. I have been trying to learn, I mean, I will be learning cryptography, and slowly I think I'm also thinking of collaborating with some faculties. Let us see, to use number theory, but not elliptic curves.
Fine. Okay.
Yeah, or differential equations, complex analysis and all, but
Okay.
not elliptic curves as such.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Maybe Vivek, since you're already here, can you say what you know about elliptic curves in cryptography?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's lots of applications. In fact, so you know that if a cryptographic primitive has to be secure, it has to be based on some hard problem, right? So we give out ciphertext, and then only if you know some secret information, you should be able to decrypt, right? So in fact, the public key cryptography relies on hard problems, mathematical problems such as factoring large numbers, okay, or solving discrete logarithm problem. Or in finite fields, or over the elliptic curve group. In fact, elliptic curve group is now really preferred because it offers the discrete logarithm problem is quite hard. So if a problem is harder, that means that it's likely that your keys are going to be shorter. So in fact, so on IoT devices, it's very likely that it uses elliptic curve crypto than maybe RSA or some other crypto system based on discrete logarithm problem or finite fields. In fact, one area of interest that I would like to pick up is so these things have application. Of course, out of many applications, one of the applications will be say in the smart cars. Okay, say in the future when the cars become more autonomous, So they need to, so if suppose two cars are approaching a junction, then they need to verify, right? And because any adversary in the middle should not be able to disrupt their communication. Otherwise, it could lead to severe fatalities, right? So for that, you need to do verification. And in fact, elliptic curve, the signature schemes based on elliptic curves are a nice choice because of they offer efficiency due to shorter key lengths. So in fact, but still it's not enough because, for example, some estimates say that whenever not far in the future, whenever cars approach a junction, right? So you need to verify about 5,000 signatures per second, but the current records are about say 1,000 signatures. So in fact, one of the proposals I know that me and Professor Manisha we have wrote together is where can you do optimize these things even further so that you can do a lot more verification signature verifications per second. So that would call for more research into
Yeah, I
this.
know because elliptic curve addition is little complicated. I know
Yeah.
in cryptography they give P and they give NP
Oh
and
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah.
don't give N, and it's
Oh, yeah,
very
you need to find the
difficult to
discrete
find
log, yes.
N.
Yeah.
Exactly. So these type of things are there.
Is there any other group of elliptic curves other than the elliptic curves on finite fields that are used in cryptography?
Oh, we love finite fields because it's finite, right? So then working over bigger, space, it's good if we keep things finite. So in fact, that finiteness actually make things more complicated.
Prasanna,
Okay.
it's relentless. He's asking one more
What
question.
functions can you define in
The
addition?
others have passed on compliments. So thank you, everybody.
What do you mean? Riemann-Zeta function is defined, no, for elliptic curves, Prasanna. And Riemann hypothesis is there for elliptic curves, and which is proved by actually Dellin, for which he got a Fields medal actually. So there are other functions defined for it. Okay.
Thank you all. It's been a
Thank
great
you.
talk. Yeah. Thank you, Manisha.
Thanks, Jaya. Thanks.
All right.
Bye. Bye, all.
Bye. See you next week. Yeah.